Hey guys, what's going on? This is the Dream It Alive show. I'm your host, Ash Kumra, co-founder of DreamItAlive.com. We are a global online community that guides you to create your dream life with helpful visualization tools, dream boards, and helpful personal development content. So why not take that next level, become the best version of yourself? Check it out at DreamItAlive.com. I am really excited about today's guest. Dave Asprey is actually the founder of the Bulletproof Executive. He's a technology investor and entrepreneur, and he has, check this out, spent over $300,000 in over 15 years to hack his own biology. It's pretty impressive what this man has done. Many of you probably know about him through his show online and his home brand, Bulletproof Executive. And recently he launched the book called The Bulletproof Diet, which we're going to talk about as well. I have read this book. I have followed Dave Asprey for a while now, listening to his very informative podcast. And, this interview is really important for anyone because all of us dreamers out there and all of us achievers and all of us people that want to make the world better, one of the things you have to do is you have to treat your body like a temple. You have to have the right optimized mind, body, and soul. And I feel that Dave has figured out this formula on how to become the best version of you. And I'm hoping that from this interview, yourself and myself will learn what it takes to truly become a optimized best version of yourself, or our own bulletproof exec. So Dave, how are you doing today?
I am doing really, really well, and thanks for that amazing introduction.
You're welcome, brother. I always ask this question, how did you get to where you are right now? But I want to ask you, I'm going to give you a special version of that question. My question to you is, what inspired you to get to where you are right now?
Fear. And that's not what I operate out of now, but imagine I'm in my mid-20s. I'm struggling to build a career. I've had some early success. I'm in Silicon Valley. There's a boom happening, and we're building cloud computing as we know it today. Facebook doesn't exist yet, and Google's first servers are at my company's building and using our network, and just this incredible time. But I weigh 300 pounds, and then I start getting brain fog. And I'm like, I know how to do this stuff. Like I'm an innovator, I'm a disruptive entrepreneur, but I can't remember what I just did in that meeting. And I'm so tired, I don't even know if I can make it through the day, but somehow I'm going to put one foot in front of the other. I'm like, I'm not supposed to feel that way. Like this is fun. It's an amazing time. And it was that knowledge that A, I'm fat, and B, now I feel like I'm getting stupid. So what they said in 7th grade might be coming true because my brain isn't working. And then I decided to get some blood work done. And what we figured out was that I was at high risk of stroke or heart attack, even though I was not even quite 30 yet.
Wow.
So there you go. Okay, you have a body like an older person, like double or triple your age in terms of risk. And I decided that wasn't okay, and that I should put as much energy into understanding what made my mind do what it did and made my body do what it did as I did into my career. And that's how I ended up here. But it's called enlightened self-interest. But also, like, fear of not being able to feed myself and of dying certainly played a role in my early motivation. But that's not what motivates me now.
Okay, so you talked about this. I got a little spiritual jingle when I heard you talk just now. I mean, I want to talk a little about the mindset of how you decided to take that next step, or how did you decide to get rid of this fear? Was meditation involved? Was visualization involved? And we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of what you're about and what your book's about. But I really want to understand how you think and how you live, because you're by far one of the most fascinating, people of your age right now with what you're all about. So, and I'm sure a lot of people want to know, how did you get to that? Tell us about that.
There's a really simple algorithm that got me here. And I think in terms of algorithms, I am a tech Silicon Valley kind of pioneer guy. And I think like a computer hacker. And so I tried what was supposed to work and found that I wasn't happy. Oh, I'm getting a ton of mic noise. Is that me or you?
That's you.
Weird. I'm totally not moving. Like, there we go. It went away. So I looked at what's supposed to work, and you try the hey, this is supposed to work. It's not working. What does that mean? And what do you do next? Well, you try what's not supposed to work. So I come from a family of hardcore scientists. Like my grandparents met on the Manhattan Project, like building the bomb. And so very engineering focused. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to try these things. So I'm going to work harder. I'm going to work out 6 days a week, an hour and a half a day. I'm going to lose this weight. And what I found was, well, I'm not happy. I'm stressed all the time. I'm still fat. My brain isn't working. And so I'm going to try the stuff that actively isn't supposed to work, yet some people keep talking about. So I went to Asia and I learned to meditate in Nepal and Tibet. And I spent 5 years doing breathing exercises, a certain form of pranayama from yoga every morning, became an advanced yoga practitioner. Like, hey, I'll learn from these guys. The fact that they didn't have computers 10,000 years ago when they started meditating, they probably still learned something paying attention to the human brain. And I sought out experts. I was blown away when around this time, a woman who was a founder of the Pre and Perinatal Psychology Association basically put up a SWOT analysis of my personality after learning a couple things about the way I came into the world. It turns out I was born with the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck, which sets your nervous system into a chronic fight or flight mode. Your sympathetic response is turned up when that happens. And so my level of vigilance for the world around me, without my knowledge or permission, was set to be more sensitive and basically more ready to look for threats than I needed it to be. And when I became aware of that and I learned the technology-based tools to give me control of my biology, I was able to turn that off in a pretty profound way. And things like that, is that a spiritual thing? Hell yeah, I had spiritual experiences learning to turn off my fight or flight response. You want to call them a spiritual experience or a human experience? I have no idea. But I can tell you that most of the amazing things I've been able to do in my career and in my life, I'm in an altered state when I do them. And some people call that a flow state or something else. But when people do amazing things, they're not doing normal things and they're not in a normal state. So for me to learn how to control my biology, of course it involves unusual brainwaves and unusual spacing between my heartbeats. And I'm really grateful that we have technology that makes it easy to learn those instead of me having to sit in a monastery somewhere for 20 years staring at a rock in order to get some kind of these things that you can get in a week of neurofeedback.
Wow, that's amazing. And you had taken what you just said, about reaching this state of flow or reaching this ability to master, your own body's optimization, and you decided to create at the time the whole Bulletproof Executive brand. Tell us about the formation of that and what's your purpose? What was the purpose behind that?
I've had a successful career as an entrepreneur, and I started the Bulletproof Executive just thinking that, look, I've run an anti-aging nonprofit research group for a decade. It meets 4 minutes from Google's headquarters, and I've been unsuccessful at attracting people from any of the tech companies to come. So most of the audience is 60 plus. And I realized there's so many performance enhancement techniques there, and that if someone had told me when I was 20 or 25 the things that I know now, that I spent about $300,000 learning on how to lose 100 pounds, how to have energy and focus all day that I never had even as a teenager or as a young adult. If someone had just told me a few of the things I know now, it would have radically changed the trajectory of my life. It would have reduced the amount of suffering that I've experienced a lot. And so if I wrote this stuff down, I just took the time to do that, maybe there's like 100 people or maybe just one person. If I spent hundreds of hours writing stuff down and one person had the benefit that I've experienced, it would be a great investment of time because it's that big. And I had no idea whether I was going to attract 1 or 20 people. I wasn't trying to build a giant brand. I was just saying, I want to share the knowledge I have because I know what it'll do when someone someone's brain turns on all the way, or when they stop having chronic inflammation and they can do things that they didn't think they could do. So that was why I started it. I had a job. I was a vice president at a big internet security company, paying for my family's normal family operating expenses, and, had a good career. I didn't think I'd cut over to this full time, but the response was greater than I thought it would be.
Okay. And since then, your radio show, your own radio show, which is a ritual of mine to hear at least, has done really well. You've interviewed some amazing people, and I'm certain you've gained some insight. Tell us about any cool insight or interesting conversations you've had with some of the guests that you've featured, or your own items that you've talked about yourself.
I've had a chance to interview like Tim Ferriss and Arianna Huffington and 190 something other amazing people, and I've had 10 million downloads of the podcast. Each podcast, I ask guests, what are the 3 most important recommendations you have for people who just want to perform better at whatever it is they do? It doesn't mean physical or mental. It just, some people are artists and they want to be better artists, and some people are, cooks or CrossFit athletes. It doesn't matter, but performance is still something that everyone does. And it's remarkable how often one of my core practices comes up from the most successful people, the people who sound the happiest when I talk to them. And that's a practice of gratitude. In fact, I haven't done a scientific analysis of all these answers, but gratitude comes up very frequently. We're cultivating a mindset of gratitude versus skepticism. And this comes right down to sympathetic versus parasympathetic nervous system activity. Your sympathetic response is your fight or flight kind of fear or flee kind of response. And parasympathetic is relax and recharge and grow. And if you see the world from that skeptical, everyone's out to get me and screw me perspective, you will be in the sympathetic, fight or flee mindset. And you don't have control of your biology when you do that. When you consciously turn on gratitude, even if it's, well, I'm really grateful I learned not to do that again, which is the simplest gratitude ever, then if you can do that, it puts your body more in that parasympathetic recharge mode, and you actually have a better quality of life. Even if you're grateful for stupid things, it doesn't matter. It's just a thing you can do to your biology. So a lot of the most successful people have learned that hack. And the other one that comes up a lot is one that I focused on in much of my work, my written work so far, including the Bulletproof Diet book that just got published, just hit the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal list. And the Bulletproof Diet book is about how do you take care of your biology. And the vast majority of highly successful people do what you said. They treat their body as a temple, or maybe in my case, as a laboratory, because there's all sorts of things you're not supposed to do in a temple that I might do to my body in the quest of in the quest of learning and migrating. So I care greatly for my body, and I monitor the data, and I'm willing to make small changes to see what happens. And most of the highly successful people I interview, and also just I've had a chance to meet people with just gobs of success, just financial and personal success, and celebrity power. And the number of those people who walk around with a little baggie of vitamins in their pocket that looks like mine has grown dramatically in the past 10 years. Like as soon as I whip my little, hey, I'm traveling, I take 3 bags of vitamins that look like this, and yeah, there's 25 pills in there that help my brain work better, that help me age less, that help me be more resilient in my environment. People would just look like I was a freak 10 years ago. And they look at me now and they go, oh, that's cool. What's in there? Here's mine. And like literally, I've had these conversations with 5 guys at the table, and all of them are worth like about a gazillion times more than I am in terms of bank accounts. And they're all doing the same thing, because this is what, like, the science is there. And this is what thinking people do. A guy who sold $150 million worth of recording, like basically brain hacking equipment over the past decade or so. Bill Harris had the same thing. He has a stack of these vitamins, and it's just kind of funny to sit down and see that meditation has gone from something that's kind of considered weird to something that leaders in industry are openly talking about. Like, are you kidding? You go back a decade, if you meditated, you were a fruitcake. Like, you were totally weird, and you probably were a member of a cult. there was that kind of a thing, especially in upper echelon, like financial success or Silicon Valley entrepreneurial success. And now you have leaders like Arianna Huffington wrote Thrive, and she's out there flat out saying, here's what I do, here's what it matters, and here's the failures that I had because I didn't do this. So in my case, I have had a substantial meditation practice, but I've largely replaced it with computer-guided meditation, because meditation takes a long time to do right, because it's very hard to know when you're doing it right. But I prefer to have rubber bumpers and flashing lights, so when I meditate wrong, it tells me when I'm doing it wrong, so I can correct my behavior and I can achieve the meditation states that I'm looking for without wasting a lot of time. So yes, I just said hurry, meditate faster.
Okay. Well, you bring up something, and I want to, before we dive into your book, I wanted to talk to you about one of the things you just said. You said something really interesting about, how a while back, if you got into supplements or certain, let's say, health and wellness type food, people might have looked at you weird. I find that the same thing with other macro trends that are supporting what you're saying, like visualization, meditation. There was a time when if you talked about those things, it would come off as woo-woo, like, oh, you're from the Secret movie, that very cultish type feeling. But now athletes, people, even Tim Ferriss, even yourself are talking about meditation as like a way of life. And even some of the things that from a dietary standpoint that you even talk about in your book, like coconut oil and ghee. I mean, I'm Indian, so that stuff has been ingrained in me since I was a kid. But back then, if you talked about it 10, 15 years ago, it would be like, okay, what are you doing? That's so Eastern, whatever, My question to you on this is, what do you think is helping make all these things so accepted? I mean, I know you as a communicator and as a person passionate about spreading how to be healthy state is helping this, but what is the macro feel on society you think that's helping make things like meditation and some of these supplements acceptable for people to now do?
It's a technology that I help to move forward. It's the internet. Or
okay.
More likely the interwebs.
Okay.
The idea is that if you go back to, in my case, I'm let's see, when I was in university I started in 1990 at UC Santa Barbara studying computer science. We didn't even have internet in the dorm rooms, and that happened like in 1994. So I was fortunate that I started the first company to sell anything over the internet. I sold caffeine T-shirts out of my dorm room before we had the web browser, and I was just trying to pay my tuition. But I look back then, most of my peers were doing the research on microfiche in the catalog in my lifetime. Okay, if you don't know what that is, you're listening. Microfiche are like tiny photocopies that you store in little pieces of plastic so you can look at them in a library. And if you wanted to learn about meditation and the book wasn't in the library, maybe there was an article that you could go find somewhere. But it would take days of library research, and you just hide in the library. And now you just go to Google and you type meditation biofeedback and studies, and you'll find thousands of PubMed studies that look at meditation and risk of cardiac disease or whatever other variables you can possibly think of, genetic expression. The data's right there, and it's just as easy to find people that you know and respect who are willing to talk about what they do. Like, I've been on CNN, and Nightline flew a TV crew to my house to talk about smart drugs because I was open about it. Most everyone else in that special was like veiled behind screens with their voice changed. I'm like, yeah, I put modafinil in my LinkedIn profile a while ago, modafinil being a powerful smart drug that enhances alertness and focus. And I took it every day for 8 years until I got my nutrition and my brain training to the point where modafinil doesn't do much for me anymore. Like, my brain already operates at that level. But most people aren't willing to talk about it. But once I did talk about it, you can find it. And other people can see that and go, what do other successful people do? So the speed of change is happening because people are willing to share, and you can see what works. One of the reasons that Bulletproof has grown so much, the reason the Bulletproof diet's become popular even before the book was out, is that you can feel it. Like in the first week, like, wow, I feel noticeably better. Like, there's no way this is placebo, and it keeps working over and over and over. So it's that notion that, well, when successful people talk about something, that works, and then I try it and it also works, I'm going to keep doing it. So communication is why we can do this.
Okay, well that's a great segue into your book, actually, because you just talked about some of the things that are in your book. Walk us through an outline of what this book's about and who it's for. Just because, although you are a best-selling author, and although people like myself are familiar with what you're doing, there are some people who are curious to know what you're doing. So this is a good time to share what the book's about.
Sure. So the book is called The Bulletproof Diet, and you can go to orderbulletproofdietbook.com and get a bunch more info, and I'll send you some free stuff when you forward your receipt to me. That was orderbulletproofdietbook.com. And what you'll find in the book is that I wrote a book about willpower and energy, and it includes this roadmap for food. And it's a roadmap that says, hey, these are the foods with the most energy, the least amount of inflammation and anti-nutrients and things that get in the way of your performance. And these are on one quadrant of the roadmap. There's a bunch of suspect foods that some of them probably make you weak. They take away energy and focus throughout your day, but you don't know which ones they are. And at the bottom, there's kryptonite foods. And these are foods that pretty much no one should eat unless they're about to die of starvation, in which case, hey, you're going to feel like crap, but it's better than starving to death. So since if you're listening to this, you're probably not in that category. You want to go through and you want to maximize the bulletproof food you eat. You want to eliminate the suspects, and that means get rid of all the suspects and let them back in a few at a time and see which ones knock you out. There's even a free app called Food Detective that lets you look at what your heart rate does in response to your food so that you can measure the difference. Every time I eat gluten, my heart rate does this, and it's all kind of automated in the app, but it'll actually help you see which of those suspect foods is actually causing problems. People lose up to 1 pound a day. Granted, if you only weigh 100 pounds, you're trying to lose 5 pounds, it doesn't work like that. But if you weigh 200 pounds, you want to weigh 150 pounds, you can lose a lot of weight quickly, because what you're hacking actually is inflammation, not just fat. And a lot of people who have a lot of weight, a good portion of that is because some of the foods they're eating or something in their metabolism or their environment is causing basically swelling or inflammation. And you can hack that by using the techniques in here. But along the way, you learn about, and this is a big part of the book, you learn about what's going on in your biology, and specifically in your brain. And there's a model for the brain called the triune brain model. And in it, the way I describe it in the book is there's something called a Labrador brain. And this is a Labrador retriever, a big floppy dog. And you can imagine that you have one of these in your body because what you do. It's the older parts of your brain. And if you look at the behavior of a Labrador retriever, one of the first things that it does is it's constantly like looking around for the next thing. And if you throw a stick, it'll drop what it's doing and chase the stick without really thinking too much about it. And that's your distractibility. The other part of that is, the Labrador looks around for things that might be scary and runs away from them. And that's you making sure that tigers don't eat your body. And you're not doing this consciously. Your body just does that as an automated thing. Unfortunately, that gets in the way. The second thing a Labrador does is, oh, look, spoiled food, I think I'll eat that. And then it throws up an hour later because, well, that's the please don't let this body starve response. And this is a major focus for keeping your meat alive, is getting enough food. And if you've not taken care of feeding your biology, giving your brain everything it needs, when you're sitting in a conference room and someone puts a plate of cookies in front of you, your inner Labrador retriever is going to immediately say, eat the cookie. And your adult human brain, your prefrontal cortex, says no. And then if you ever have had a dog, you know what the dog does. It looks at you with sad eyes, does, oh, please. And you go through this conversation of eat the cookie, no, eat the cookie, no. And every time you say no, you're making a decision and you're applying willpower. The bad news, this is also in the Bulletproof Diet book, is that willpower and decisions are limited. And we've shown this in laboratories now. You only have so much willpower before you just run out of it. And you only have so many decisions before you really don't make very many and you don't make good ones. So what happens? If you ate the wrong breakfast, your inner Labrador takes up your willpower, takes up your decisions on saying no to cookies and other snacks sitting in front of you. And if you don't believe me, try the Bulletproof Diet, because it's painfully obvious what happens when you eat to turn off food cravings. I don't experience food cravings anymore. It just doesn't happen. And I'm a former 300-pound obese guy who weighs, I don't know, I'm probably around I put on some muscle lately. I'm probably around like 220, I'd guess, maybe 215. I could go get on a scale, but I use the mirror. And like, okay, so I've lost 100 pounds of fat. That's amazing. But more importantly than that, I don't experience food cravings. I could skip lunch today or not skip lunch, and frankly, I don't care. Like, it's not going to affect my performance. It's not going to affect how I feel. I'm not going to start getting stressed. And all those things were normal. I used to end meetings early for that. So in the Bulletproof Diet, what I'm doing is I'm walking you through, here's a set of rules and best principles and practices that allow you to customize your diet so that you have effortless willpower, you have tons of focus. Oh, and you just had to buy new pants because your body normalized the way it looks. And there are multiple Hollywood celebrities, top-performing entrepreneurs, world champions in different sports, world champion poker players who use Bulletproof coffee, who use the Bulletproof diet as a core part of performing at their optimal level all the time. And it's liberating to have your brain do what you want all the time. And that's why I wrote this book first. And, subsequent books, I'll talk more about the cognitive and psychology side of things. But here, if you did the food wrong, your psychology will be wrong, and you just, at the end of the day, you're defeated. And I don't like to live in a world where I'm defeated at the end of the day. I want to have the energy to bring it all day, every day, and that's what I wrote the book about.
Wow. Well, like I mentioned in the beginning of this interview, I mean, having the right body, mind, health optimization focus is what can make you successful. I guess my final question to you as we near the end of this interview is, what is your big kind of vision for 2015? Like, now that you're in this state, or you can continue to live in the state, what would you like to do to help make the world be a better place with what you're doing?
I've got a lot going on for 2015. One of the things the reason I started the blog is to help other people not go through some of the things I have. And running this anti-aging nonprofit group has shown me all sorts of things that are affecting huge numbers of people that they probably don't know about. And I've decided to do a documentary about once a year on something that's affecting at least 100 million people. And the first documentary is called Moldy, and it's about what happens when we mess with our soil and we create more aggressive strains of soil-based mold that grows in our homes and in our food. And I've interviewed experts from across the country, as well as a whole bunch of people who were in water-damaged homes. About 100 million people have genes that make them highly susceptible to water-damaged buildings. And they get things like fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue and just daily huge drains on their energy. And they're not well, but they're not sick. And so I've made a movie about that. And that's something that is below the level of awareness for so many people. And when I talk with high-performing people who are having persistent problems, so often the environment, not even their food, but what's in the air around them is affecting them, and they don't know it. I want to bring awareness to this as a huge variable in your children's health, in your own health, in your likelihood of getting cancer and heart disease, as well as just being a nice person. If you live in a house with water damage and there's mold spores there, you're probably going to have a harder time controlling your emotions, and you're probably going to act like a jerk and feel bad about it. So this is coming out probably in April. The film is called Moldy, and bulletproofexec.com/moldy is where people can learn more about that project. That's a big thing, and I'm continuing to push the Bulletproof Diet in the first part of the year. It's a really big book. It's been on the New York Times list, and I suspect it'll be back there because there are a lot of people talking about it. And we're opening the first Bulletproof coffee shop in Santa Monica in February.
Are you really? I live in Southern California. That's so dope.
Yep, it'll be there on Main Street.
Wow. You just made my day, bro. That's so cool. Well, Dave, thank you so much for what you're doing. As a personal fan of what you're about, and as a avid person who wants to make my body the best temple that it can be, and best version of myself, as I'm aspiring every day. I'm trying. Thank you, and I can't wait to see what you're doing next year. And keep up the good work. And let's definitely let's help make it Dream It Alive together, man.
Thank you so much, Ash. Have an awesome day.